I'll restart this for a minute. So I know when to edit stuff out.
Make sure you check us out on social media on X at The Last Take 22, capital TLT, Instagram at The Last Take Pod or lowercase, and on YouTube. And subscribe if you haven't already on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I hope you enjoy the show, and of course, go Big Red.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Last Take. We have a pretty fun episode planned out for today. We have a wonderful guest. He is the Assistant Director of Recruitment at the UNL Co-JMC. He's also a freelance and DJ. He's also a broadcaster at Peru State, assistant football coach at Standing Bear, and a self-proclaimed college football know-it-all. We have Alex Fernando on today.
Yeah, Dylan, where'd you get that from, the long list?
Shout out LinkedIn.
You pulled my LinkedIn profile for this?
I indeed did. You do so much, so I had to kind of remember everything you do. So,
well, that's the fun thing about my life is it changes day by day.
You're also a pilot as well.
Yes,
so.
Yeah. You got everything, and then there's a pilot thrown in there. Yeah,
I was just saying, I'm in my basement, which I call the game day cockpit. So I have all my Husker posters, Husker decorations, and then I got my airplane on the wall over there. So
nice. So we have a pretty fun, like I said, we have a pretty fun episode here. So we're going to start off with our interview segment, kind of talking a little bit about what you do at Standing Bear and a little bit on the broadcasting side. And then we'll do a trivia segment. We have a pretty fun things planned to see. We're going to test your college football know-it-all type of stuff there.
I'm excited.
And then we'll go into previewing the Nebraska-Maryland game, kind of a little bit of a review for Michigan State and how that kind of builds off into Maryland. And then we'll close it out with our college football pick'em like usual. So to start, what has it been like moving from more of that assistant or more of that coaching those wide receivers, kind of to assistant football coach, kind of running the social media and stuff like that, Alex?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I've been with Standing Bear for all 3 seasons. This is our 3rd year ever in existence because it's a brand new school. So we JV the first year. Last year was our first year of varsity. This year is I want to say our first year of competitive varsity because last year we were lining up freshmen and sophomores against juniors and seniors for varsity. It was a little rough. And so this year it's been really fun just because our team is competitive in a lot of games that we had no shot in last year. And we're making teams actually work for it. And so in a few ways, I've taken a little bit of a step back just because of my schedule. You mentioned I do a few other things. We'll talk about Peru State, and I do have a day job at Nebraska, the university with you guys that I do. So I got to make sure I keep enough time for all those because I love Standing Bear and I love being part of that team and the coaches that were there. I've learned so much from, but it also is a volunteer opportunity. And when there's paid opportunities, you got to balance your time a little bit. And so that's something I kind of had a conversation with Adam Schultz, the head coach, and honestly myself, is you got a lot of stuff going on. What physically, mentally, and emotionally can you handle in the course of a football season where this is not your number 1 job? It's not even your number 2 job or 3 jobs sometimes, depending on the week. So how can I balance that with everything else? So I've been doing the social media for them since we started. I've taken over. I created the Instagram. I've kind of taken lead on coordinating photo and video. So I've essentially still been doing that. And then I've just kind of stepped back as being more a general assistant So I still work with the wide receivers primarily, but we have another receivers coach that we both kind of tag team because he's also helping with the freshman team and the JV teams. And so he's helping. He has to go and help call offense and like run stuff for them. And then our head coach jumps in because he was an NFL tight end, so he has a lot of receiver drills and he's helping to work with that. We're doing a lot more team focused stuff, so it's not as much indie time in practice. And even when there is, I'm still around to help out and I know what's going on because I know the plays, I know our system. So in some ways, I stepped back, but not really that much. And I've just kind of embraced some new roles, like more so in the practice and in especially on game day. So typically, I've been on the sidelines for all the games over the last couple of years, but this year I've been up in the booth with our offensive coordinator Ron Kellogg and some other staff members. So Cooper Tracy, who's actually a student at Coach AMC, and then also one of our football coaches. He and I are up in the booth helping Ron with our offensive system, making sure one, I help track our plays. I have a whole spreadsheet of like what formation we're in, what personnel we're in, what formation the defense is in, and then I write down what play, if it was a run, an incomplete pass, a completed pass, what yardage, who got it. So tracking a little bit of stats, but mostly like what was the success rate of these plays, and in within our drives, I can kind of stack them from the previous games and from what we're doing this in the current game. Like, hey, this we're running really well with these plays. These other ones, we're not getting so much. We're missing our blocks here more often. Let's stick back to these and get a little bit more consistency and a little more success in our drives. So I've still been a pretty big part of everything, which is really special. But it's nice that it's not a major time commitment because I just can't be there all the time. And they're still very willing to let me be there as a volunteer and help out.
Yeah. Off of that, like, how do you think with Standing Bear, just like the also the competitive factor that being able to compete in some of these games, what is something that has really surprised you about this year to us? Not just like the team being competitive, like the actual gameplay itself.
The gameplay is, I think I mean, it's frustrating because from a coach lens, I see all the mistakes, and
Hmm.
so I wanna say it's, like, more mistake free, but a lot of it is just guys have a lot more confidence. I think that's probably the biggest thing is even when they make mistakes, they understand what that mistake was, and they can go correct it a lot quicker, and they're playing with that confidence, which leads to a more competitive game, which leads to more victories. We had 2 wins all of last season. They came in the final 2 games against opponents that were more our speed, and we, started the season with, winning 2 out of our first 3. So, that's a big difference and a big jump, against teams that dropped 40, 50 points on us last year in the first half. So that's something I think just the confidence that our guys have built upon, like seeing that they were competitive in these first few games. And the last couple games have been a little tough. We've had some injuries and we played some really, really good football teams with Waverly, Gretna East, and Norris the last few weeks. So a bit of a rough patch, but coming into the final 3 games of the season, have 3 very winnable games. And it's exciting that, again, our guys, one, they're getting healthy again, but two, they're like, we can compete with these teams. We can win these last 3 games and go on a 5-4 regular season record, a winning record. So that's something that I think to look forward to. So I think that confidence and then just the general growth. I mean, you see these kids, they're a little bit bigger, they're a little faster, a little stronger. That's a big difference from last year when we were playing some freshmen in varsity minutes because we just needed bodies. And see that year develop with puberty, hear that develop in the weight room, and just understanding our system a little bit more. We can do a little bit more of it's not teaching the football, it's teaching the system when we're coaching nowadays. And that's probably the biggest difference between the last couple years and this season.
Cool.
Yeah.
What would you say is the main thing you've learned? Because you have some really really good coaches over at Senior. What's the biggest thing you've learned from the minds of like a Ron Kellogg or Adam Schultz?
Oh my gosh, yeah, you throw Garrett Johns in there too, our defensive
Hmm.
coordinator, again, a Husker, a former black shirt, so I think something that I've learned from all of them, and then even the other assistant coaches. I mean, Carter Terry, my wide receiver counterpart, he played quarterback at Nebraska Wesleyan. And Eddie Cecilia, our quarterbacks coach, is phenomenal. Like I learned so much just listening to him every day. So I think some of the things I've really taken away, and I hope to continue to take away, is just how to analyze a defense and just analyze a field before the play even starts. And I had a okay understanding of that, from my football playing days and from my high school career. But I've really leveled up in that kind of world and just the mental side of football, where when we let so again, it helps being up in the booth too because I can see the whole field now. But even from the sideline and when we're down at practice, we make our quarterbacks call out what the coverage is every day in practice and every snap. So that was something we were working on more today. We're like, hey, I was helping snap the ball. I'm like, I wouldn't even show them the football. I'm like, you got to tell me the coverage of what we see and what we're lined up, so that way our quarterbacks know if we're running if they're running a certain type of zone, if they're in cover three, if they're in cover two, cover four, whichever one there it is, where should this ball likely go with our concept? Where are the holes going to be? And then taking that a step further, okay, now when we get the snap, where's this safety moving to? Where's this linebacker moving to that is our read guy? And if he does this certain thing, I know where to go with the ball. And that's helped me a lot. Somebody who hopes to call plays someday and hopes to, again, have his own team to run. It's really interesting to see how each system is broken down piece by piece from the offensive line and what they do blocking, like learning from our line coaches and like the different types of run plays and the different types of blocks and who has to go get what guy, and what types of blocks they have to set that run game up with, all the way to our quarterbacks, where you look at the secondary before the snap is, and you know where that ball's going to go because you know what coverage they're in. So I think those are some of the things that I've learned most from Schultz, from Ron Kellogg, Garrett Johnson, from all of our coaches, really, because they all bring such a unique level of football experience.
We switch over to Peru. Sorry. Now we can also like detail another thing that shouldn't be glossed over is your broadcasting at Peru State. What's that been like?
Yeah, so one of my other side jobs is I am the play-by-play broadcaster for Peru State College, a small NAIA school on the southeastern edge and corner of Nebraska and Peru. And it's so much fun. I love going out to Peru. It's such a great community. The school really is a majority of the town. There's not a whole lot in Peru, Nebraska outside the campus, so it's really a special, unique area. The Oak Bowl is a gorgeous football stadium. If you get a chance, you got to go out and see a game at the Oak Bowl. The team's a lot of fun. I've broadcast for volleyball. They have a new head coach that I'm good friends with, and it's been really fun to watch her grow into that head coaching role. She was kind of thrust upon it this season with some of the coaching changes they had. So she was um, faced with a bit of a challenge, but has done really well. And they're on a bit of a win streak right now in the conference. So hoping to make some conference postseason games. And then I get basketball season coming up as well. So been the broadcaster there about 2 years. And I think probably one of the most special things about them is they let me walk in and just take over the mic. They're so friendly. They're so willing to let me work on my schedule because they know I'm coming from Lincoln. They know that it's a little bit tricky for me to get out there for every game. And so I try to make sure I find some other students or some other people to help cover games that I can't. But they are just so phenomenal about like giving people opportunities, giving people experience, working a little bit every job. So like I tell students that I recruit to co-JMC, I'm like, when you get these side jobs, it's important to have these other skills because I was hired as the play-by-play broadcaster. But I've helped them with photography. I've helped them with social media content. I've helped them with interviews and writing articles for their website. So like I'm doing 4 or 5 other jobs, even though I was hired as a part-time play-by-play guy. So it's been really special. I love covering those games from volleyball to football to basketball. The teams are good. Again, they show a lot of fight. They have some great athletes there. Football team's been really fun. I just broadcasted their game last week. They had a home conference game against Clark University from Dubuque, Iowa, and Peru won 54-0. So like this is a good game to call. It's a little tough doing it solo because unless I bring a friend of mine or unless I find somebody to come out there with me, I'm calling a football game solo. I'm calling a volleyball, basketball game solo. So that's probably one of the challenges is there's just limited resources, and a lot of it's on my shoulders in terms of the broadcast. But it's also really special because it's my own content and it's my own style of broadcast because I'm the only one talking.
Awesome. All right. So we'll kind of move on here. We're gonna start with our trivia segment. So, Alex,
Right.
you proclaim yourself as a college football know-it-all. You run your own blog. You post that every week during the football season. So we wanted to do a quick kind of testing that knowledge. It would kind of be a face-off sort of. We're gonna try to test this out over online. This is a little different because we'll see. It's different in person than on StreamYard or Zoom, so we'll try this out.
Okay. I'm excited for it. I'm always down for some football trivia.
So this one, we're going to be doing 2015 NFL starting quarterbacks in college. So these are quarterbacks from the 2015 season in the NFL with their pictures in college. And I'll let Blake take over.
Yeah.
As he will be running everything on this one. So
we thought the more obscure the better, instead of just something simple. You know, a lot of people do logos or something like that, and then people won't even get like Southern University, and you're like, how the hell do you miss that? Well, this one we wanted to really see what you could do. So
this would be good. 2015, that was my sophomore year at UNL. That was one of the craziest years of my life. So I'm anxious to see how my football knowledge does from that year.
Okay. All right.
So I guess the rules here, we'll go back and forth, and we'll see how many we can get in a row, basically.
All right. So here's the first one. Or you could type it out, Dylan. Actually.
Yeah, I'll type it. But Alex, you can go first.
This one to me? Okay. Well, that is little Superman Cam Newton.
Yep. All right, next one. That'd be Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that Russell Wilson Badger team, and they were terrifying.
Yeah, I could just remember that game. Nebraska played them in 2011, and they absolutely obliterated Nebraska. It was their first Big Ten road game.
Yep.
College game day was there. Lee Corso picked Nebraska to win it. He had the cheese head, and then he threw it. One of the more iconic ones, at least picking Nebraska.
That was one of the biggest welcome to Big Ten football that you could ever imagine. You're in Camp Randall against a really good Wisconsin team, and then we came home, and that was against Ohio State. Nebraska had the largest comeback in school history. Levante David stripping the Ohio State running back in the rain, and then started the comeback. That was Luke Fickell coaching for the Buckeyes in Memorial. So, a couple of fun Big Ten games there. And while we're talking about it too, that's Aaron Rodgers for the Cal Golden Bears back in the Pac-12 days. You know, that's an ACC powerhouse now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's currently 2-1, and this one would be the Heisman winner, Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, I really wanted their offensive coordinator. Remember how good their offensive coordinator was?
Oh yeah, I wonder who that was.
Yeah, you think he'd have a good opportunity to coach a Power 5 school? I guess he's in a Power 5 school now, but back when we wanted him.
Yeah.
Famous Jameis action.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
so I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about it because I know you guys love pro football as well. But you saw the trade between the Browns and the Bengals where they sent Joe Flacco just across the state from Cleveland to Cincinnati. Jameis sitting there on the bench in New York. You could pull Jameis Winston and you go for Joe Flacco, which no flack to Flacco, but I mean, Winston's a little more fun.
I'm sure this guy I'm about to bring up is going to be later on this list, but there's a guy that doesn't have a job right now, Kirk Cousins. Personally, my fantasy team would love that because I have Jamar Chase. I'm not very thrilled Joe Flacco moving over to Cincinnati. So
yeah, Daddy Kirko would be another great option. I know Atlanta kind of overbid on him and stuff, but I mean, there's an option to kind of leeway off his salary and give the Bengals a chance in a division that's very open. Mm-hmm. Very open.
All right, next one. This is indeed the greatest of all time, Tom Brady. So what is that? So it's 2-2. Or no, I don't know how to do math. 3-3.
Yeah, okay. Let's see who's this.
All right, Alex.
This is Tyrod Taylor from Virginia Tech.
There we go. Next one. Oh boy. I wonder who.
Andy quarterback.
Hmm.
Who is Andy?
Oh boy.
Who was starting in the NFL in 2015 too? I get it.
That's a good question. I actually don't know who this is.
I wish I don't need the number of what he was wearing in the NFL, but I need to know what team he played for. That's what's
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll it's not Diego Pavia. I know that.
It's not.
Or Theo Vaughn.
Or Theo Vaughn.
I actually don't know who this is, so I guess do you know, Alex?
I don't. It's
Well, I
gonna
guess we'll
skip
find
my
out then.
know-it-all knowledge there.
Go to the next one.
Well,
The Red Rifle,
yeah, it was Andy
Andy
Dalton.
Dalton, Horned Frogs.
He was really good there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is Money Manziel.
Yep, Johnny Manziel.
Okay. I tell you what, Andy Dalton, fantasy quarterback back in the day in 2015. I believe he was one of my fantasy quarterbacks. He was phenomenal because he and AJ Green, unstoppable.
All right. Who is that?
Not Sanchez because he's number 10.
It looks familiar too. I can't.
Yeah, I don't.
This is a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 2015.
Number 10 at USC.
Not Matt Leinart. On that. I can cross that off the list.
I don't know.
Would it be? Is it Sanchez? It might be. I didn't think he was number 10 at USC.
Pretty topical.
I could be thinking of Leinart, who was 11.
No.
Probably spelled it wrong. I don't know.
You know this one, Dylan?
I actually don't.
Brock Osweiler.
Oh.
Actually, I'm not sure that.
Yeah.
Works up, Brock Osweiler.
Oh, I got
those UCLA Pac-12 helmets back in the day.
Oh, this is the Carson Palmer from USC.
Mm-hmm.
So 6-5. I am up.
Is that my boy? That's my guy.
Oh.
He was at the Lions back then, but Matt Stafford. That's
that was Dylan Raiola's his godfather. Yeah,
yep,
Dylan
Raiola's godfather.
Yeah. 6-6. I think I was talking about this guy earlier. No, it's not.
No, Cousins is his different number. I think he was 18 in college.
Always.
Which
one is it? Which Michigan State quarterback is this?
Wasn't Cook because Cook was
No.
the thing. I don't know if he started in the NFL.
I don't know.
Let's move on to the next one so we can get more here.
Boston College. I know who this is. I believe.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan.
Oh yeah, Matty Ice. Well done. Throwing to Julio Jones back in the day.
Is it not?
No, it is.
Maybe. Am I spelling something wrong? All right. Well.
It should be.
Matt Ryan. All right, Alex.
Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles from the UCF Gold Knights.
But that's Matt Ryan.
Well, that's
Who's that other Boston College?
Who's the other Boston College? Oh yeah, that's definitely Matt Ryan. We got that one. Interesting. That's Derek Carr.
It's actually Alex Smith.
Alex Smith. Oh, it looked like Fresno State. That is Utah. Sorry.
That is Utah.
That's me bad. Ugh, Ryan Tannehill. Don't even. Former Texas A&M wide receiver Ryan Tannehill.
Indeed. Notre Dame. Actually, do I know who this is? No, I did not.
Is that Quinn?
I don't think he was starting.
We'll go to the next one.
Okay.
The Bridge.
Teddy Two Gloves.
All right.
Teddy Two Gloves.
Couple more.
Drew Brees. Eli.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's see the ones that we missed.
Let's go back to the beginning. So, obviously, you got that, Alex. So that's one for you.
Yep.
I got Russ. So one and one. It's tied. 2-1,
Aaron Rodgers,
2-2, 3-2,
James,
3-3, 4-3.
Tyrod.
Oh,
James.
Oh,
Cutler.
I forgot Cutler was a Vandy man.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
didn't realize that either.
god. That makes so much sense.
Red Rifle,
Had Andy Dalton.
3, 4-4, Manziel,
I missed this.
Matt
Yes.
Castle.
Oh my gosh.
What team was he for the NFL?
That-
What
I knew that.
team was he starting for the NFL?
I don't know. I don't remember.
He would have started for the Chiefs, I believe.
What?
That was before Smith.
Oh
made it
my
to
gosh, yeah.
Kansas
I
City.
think so. That or he was he started because somebody was injured or something. I think he might have been.
So this would
That's
make it.
Matt Castle. I got Brock Osweiler for you though.
Yeah, that was a good poll. Carson Palmer,
Oh,
Stafford,
boy Stafford.
Brian Hoyer,
uh,
Patriots legend.
yeah, I wouldn't have got that.
No, I would not.
Oh, Hasselbeck.
Really, I would not have gotten that.
Are you sure all these quarterbacks were starting in 2015? Where was Hasselbeck starting?
I don't know.
Good question. I'm gonna look that up right now.
Because Russ was in Seattle by that point.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Bortles. There's Matt
There's
Ryan,
Matt Ryan,
Smith,
Alex Smith, yeah,
Hill,
Tannehill,
Jimmy
Clausen. Oh yes, yes. Oh my gosh, that's Jimmy Clausen.
He's the backup for the Colts.
He must have started some games then.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
And then Breeze.
Jeez.
That's how far we made it.
nice. That's
I
not
would
too
say
bad.
lost track, so, but we both.
I had like 8 or 9, I think. So
Yeah, something like that.
feel pretty good. I'm a little sad I missed the Jimmy Clausen because that would have been quite the pull. That would have been funny.
Yeah.
I like that. I'll have to go look up that quiz. Test myself.
Yeah,
a little
I'll
bit.
send it to you. 2015 starting quarterbacks in college.
Okay, I like it.
All right, so Nebraska is coming off a big win over Michigan State. There is some points of nervousness, at least if you're as a Husker fan, but they pull off the gritty win over Michigan State, and now they head on to their first true road trip, I should add, taking on the Maryland Terrapins, who are coming off a tough last-minute loss to Washington after having a 20-0 lead. So something I kind of have here. So how do you think, Alex, Nebraska can build off that type of win against Michigan State and use that on the road at Maryland?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of great insight from watching that game. I have a lot of good analysis. One of the things I think that tops all of it is that the fourth quarter was absolutely demolished by Nebraska. Like they dominated every single moment of that fourth quarter, and that I think is a big testament to what the team is looking to do. Where not every win is going to be pretty. Most of them in the Big Ten, they aren't. That's just how the Big Ten plays football. But if you can win the fourth quarter, which is not something this team has done in quite a long time, you are really understanding what Matt Rule and his coaches want them to do. So I thought that was probably the biggest takeaway for me is they built up so much momentum in that fourth quarter and really kept the foot on the gas. The late touchdown, not good for the sports bettors and not great for uh, the scoreboard, but in general, like that game was over and it was 38-20. So that was something that was really nice to see is that Nebraska just would not let anything uh, happen to them in the fourth quarter. They made the things happen. So I thought that was really good, and that's something you could always build on because if you can get, especially on the road, you can get your team hyped up and ready and locked in for that fourth quarter. You can erase a lot of mistakes from earlier in the game. Can't erase all of them, but you can make a lot of mistakes go away, and you can make some new things happen, which certainly will help you on the road.
Yeah, I definitely something to watch is how Maryland has 14 sacks this year already, which I think leads the country or leads the Big Ten. So that will be something to watch because obviously we've seen the last two games Nebraska's played in. Dylan Ryle, a lot of it could be him holding on the ball too long. Some of it is just he has no time. But something, hopefully, that as a Nebraska fan, you'd hope that they can hold the line against that Maryland defense that has looked pretty good so far this year.
Yeah,
But yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
you mentioned the 19 sacks on the season. They rank, they're
19.
tied for 4th in the country. So it's certainly going to be a formidable pass rush. And we know that there's some issues on the O line protection wise. So that's definitely going to be one of the key factors to watch on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had an interesting view of the game since I was up there calling it for Karen U with Bobby Heslin. So that was,
Absolutely. Congrats on the big call, too.
yeah,
That's great.
thank you. We weren't without our issues at the beginning. We had to go grab the tie line and Mixler stuff from Anderson, and it was a whole mess. We
Yeah, Bill
didn't
told me
have
the story. Said you guys were scrambling a bit. So well done to get that like up and ready on the air, like right at kickoff. That's an impressive work.
Yes. And I was so pumped and ready to go. And then I started getting nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't know what's going on. We do not have this figured out, and there seems to be no answers. Even Bobby, since he knows people in the department, since he works for it, he knows people. And we had technical people coming over and helping with us, but there was really nothing they could do. And so then it was like Bill said, all right, we're just gonna start. You're gonna start commentating the game, which I mean, obviously makes sense. Yeah, you start no matter what. But also like if worst comes to worst, we'll just like record on our phone or whatever. I'm like, the big broadcast that I get at Memorial Stadium is gonna be the one that is like messed up. But anyways, after those issues, and we were able to do a broadcast, what I saw, kind of more going off of what you said, Alex, and I don't want to be redundant to what you said because it's a 100% true. With that, kind of like some of the decision making Dylan would make, I think that I think a lot of it is like a compounding issue. So he probably has the front of his mind that there may be some pressure on this play, or he's thinking about like, okay, the past few plays they haven't really worked, and so now I gotta like scramble or figure something out in the pocket, try to step up or do something to move around. And I think that is kind of getting to him a little bit instead of just kind of having a level mindset into each play. And you could see that on one of them. I remember when he said like one of the sacks was on him because it was, and that wasn't the only one. I do think that some of the game plan of I don't know what this really stems from because I'm not in the coach's head, but I think that what we planned for the Cincinnati game and how we used the short passing game as like an extension of the run game, just dink and dunk stuff to move it down the field and keep moving the sticks. I'm wondering, we started shifting more towards in the Akron Houston Christian game and then even the Michigan game is like a lot of those deep passes and stuff like that. And like it can work because we can do it. We have Ja'Cory Barney who can get separation, or we have Nazaya Hunter who's really fast. But at the same time, especially in that abysmal second quarter, I was frustrated just with not getting the ball out right away. Like, why aren't we just doing these short routes? Even if they go for 3 yards, 2 yards, there are still completions that will allow the defense to crouch up forward. And I think that's where we really could have capitalized on it. Granted, it obviously didn't end up mattering, but really that, 3rd and 10 play to Ja'Cory Barney, I'll be honest, while it was a clear sync up between DR and Ja'Cory, going off that extension of the route, because that even really wasn't 100% the route he's supposed to run, and he'd be able to make a play out of that. And, you had 2 stars be able to make a play. But at the same time, things were not looking good even at that point. So I think that I don't know if it comes from normally the short routes or maybe Dylan's second or third read when it comes to it, because I think that that's also another thing too, is that when Dylan has a whole bunch of time in the pocket and like the deep route isn't open, that's where he starts going through his second, third read, and that's obviously where you get the shorter routes that come in. So I don't know if that was what was more the case in Cincinnati, or was it that we just did a short passing game. I would like to see, and I know this is something that everyone says, is that just get the ball out of Dylan's hands right away so he can throw it and try to get some of those completions. That's what I think is my big observation, especially on the offensive side.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And one of the things that Coach Rule said at his press conference yesterday is that the wind was 100% a factor, and especially in the passing game. And one thing I've noticed with Dana Holgerson's offensive system, and from what I've been able to decipher so far with the route concepts, is they're pretty complex. I don't think he's running a lot of like just basic stuff because we have a talented receiver group. He's a veteran OC. He's got a talented quarterback with a good arm, so he can run a little bit more dynamic stuff in the passing attack. However, that takes a little bit of time to develop downfield. So that's where I think you're right. You're going to see some of those second and third progressions come down to the checkdowns because that's a safe throw. We need those yards, and it's way better than trying to force the ball when the defense isn't giving you that. And I kind of go back to what I've learned with Standing Bear, what we teach our quarterbacks. You got to look at the defense before the snap is even made, and make a couple decisions on like this is likely where they're going to be after the snap, because it's not just pre-snap. Nobody's staying in one spot, especially defensively. So you're like you got to kind of anticipate where these guys are likely to move. You got maybe 2, 3 options of what direction they wanna go. You have to know a couple options off that. So, you gotta think of all the layers in a list that a quarterback has to read through, and I think Dylan overall has done a pretty good job of that. Remember, he's played, what, 20 games of college football, and only half of it is with Dana Holgorsen as his OC. So, that's not, like, a extensive amount of time, and I think there are definitely occasions where and you shot it, like, he patted his chest, he's like, "Hey, that one's on me, I didn't hold or I held it too long, I didn't throw it out." There is a lot more options for him to get that ball out quickly, and I think mixing in some more consistent short route patterns with some of those more longer developing route plays will be a much better offensive system moving forward. Um, in a game like that, you can't go deep as much because you're not getting the protection you want, and your deep ball is never really that accurate to begin with, and now it's even more inaccurate because you have all this wind factor. So I don't mind. I definitely get what you're saying. I don't mind them going to those short routes. I think that's a great way to kind of keep moving the offense. I think one of the issues was we ran well, but not enough in that
Yeah.
Michigan State game. Emmett Johnson only had 13 carries, and granted, Matt Rule said this in the press conference as well. This ended up being like a 50 some play game, and he was anticipating 70, 75 plays for his offense,
Mhm.
and it just got bogged down. And like again, that's going to happen in Big Ten play. That's where you need an effective run game, which Emmett Johnson will give you, but you got to give him more touches. And I hate saying that because I don't want him to just die out on the field because we're giving him 20, 25 touches a game because
Mhm.
he's our only running back, and I hope that the like Isaiah Mosey, Quentin Ives, he hasn't really, been in the mix much, but, Mekhi Nelson had a good run. Mekhi Nelson had the 1 carry for 11 yards, Isaiah Mosey 3 carries for 9 yards. So, there's 4 touches to 2 other running backs. It's clear that Emmett Johnson is your guy. So I've been saying it for the last couple years. Feed Emmett Johnson. Like, don't make me tap the sign. Like, just feed Emmett Johnson. But you got to find ways to make that run game more effective, and I think that's where the short passes come into play.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think off of that too. I mean, obviously, when you saw those guys make those good plays, I do wonder too if, Dylan, he's very smart. He makes a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage. You're talking about, seeing what the defense is going to do. And so I think maybe some of it potentially could come from him making checks to see, like, maybe we would do a run here, but, check out of it to a different pass or something like that. I don't know entirely, but I just am sort of kind of putting one and one together that he does a lot of these checks to maybe switch out of it or maybe get Emmett Johnson like out in the flat or something like that, and just kind of change up what it's sort of looking at. But yeah, off that run game, I think Isaiah Mosey, I think that he's someone that going into this game, not a lot of people would have pegged to be the number 2 guy, but I think that giving him the opportunity more. And then Mekhi Nelson he's really interesting because with Quentin Ives, I think he's not that fast and he's dealt with injuries. I think that's been a big thing with him. Like he kind of reminds me of Anthony Grant,
Yeah.
and I know that's not a great thing. I think Quentin Ives can hit the hole better than Anthony Grant, because that was his issue, is that it took him forever to freaking find out which hole he wanted to run through.
Mhm.
But with Mekhi Nelson, it's so weird because you do get those flashes of him being a running back. It's just that you can't get any consistency out of it. And what is that stemming from? Is that stemming from him being able to hit the hole, or is it stemming from him not like having good decision making with the play? I don't know, and I would really like to see how he gets factored in because I mean I don't think he may necessarily be the number 2. I just think that, like, from what the running backs we've seen so far, he's just like, again, the Michigan State game, having that one run for good amount of yards and then just not be able to do that again is, yeah, kind of a little surprising. And I think that he's someone that is could potentially do more.
Yeah, and I think more touches are coming for the other backs in that room, and Matt Rule kinda hinted at it at the press conference, but it's hard when, 1, the play script just gets chopped in half because you don't have a you don't have a full offensive drive and so many 3 and outs or turnovers and like just issues like that with the clock when your opponent is sucking away a lot of time. So you have fewer plays than you anticipated in a game. But on top of that, they're both freshmen, and that's probably the trickiest thing about
Yeah.
this running back room is we need somebody to step up, but they're really young guys that are seeing college football for the first time. So there's a lot of development they still need. I mean, Emmett Johnson, his freshman year, he was thrown in there because of injuries, and he played very well. But you look at Emmett Johnson now compared to those freshman runs,
Yeah.
big difference. And I think that's just again understanding the systems more, understanding how college football needs to be played, and what he can do with his own rushing ability and the limitations that the offensive line has on certain plays, and then the help that the offensive line gives on other plays. Because I will say, like, as much as like myself included, probably more than anybody else, harp on the offensive line and get frustrated with their play. There was a lot of good things they did in that Michigan State game.
Run blocking was really good.
Yeah.
Looking at the PFF grades, I mean, Gunnar Gatula is on the All PFF team this week,
I
so
saw that, and I'm usually screaming Gunner's name in with some other profanities and stuff
Yep.
because I'm usually not very pleased with him. I do think moving him over to the right side was really good. I thought he played really well there. I am not in love with Pritchett yet. There's a lot of missed assignments and a lot of mental errors. Physicality is fine. He's clearly got the mold of a left tackle and the strength of one, but D1 college football, especially in the Big Ten, as an offensive lineman, you can't miss assignments, and if you do, you can't miss them very often.
Yep.
And there was some plays that he did really well, but I agree the line is stepping forward. It's not going to be as quickly as I or any Husker fan would want it to be, especially in the pass protection. I think that's going to be an area that we're struggling with all season. And teams are gonna take advantage of that and blitz a little bit more and do different stunts because you see really, especially on the stunts, is where the offensive line get confused and struggle to pick up blocks. But on the run game, I think we can lean heavily on that. It's just tough when you don't wear Emmett Johnson into the ground because you have a long Big Ten season ahead of him.
I mean, just looking ahead too before we preview here this Maryland game, but like you after Maryland, you have to go on the road for a Friday night game at Minnesota. Then you come home and play Northwestern. Then you have USC and UCLA, and then a bye week. Then you have Penn State and Iowa to close out the year. That you can't wear Emmett Johnson out to where like he's literally dead by the end of the year. Like he's one of the biggest X factors for this Nebraska team, and he has shown all year. And just the explosive ability is a big part of that Nebraska offense. Something I wanted to touch on before we kind of move on here to our predictions here is the linebackers. The linebackers really stepped up against Michigan State, especially Vincent Shavers and Javen Wright. Both of them played very well. I mean, Shavers made multiple plays stopping the run. Just overall, just the defense stopped the run way better than they did. They learned a lot, obviously, during that bye week before going to Michigan State, learning from that Michigan game where they got absolutely torched by Bryce Underwood and Justice Haynes. So they really shut down that rushing attack. Michigan State has multiple good running backs, and none of them really got to see that much. Didn't get that much. I think they hold them to like about 60-something yards. So
and Mekhi Frazier was a dynamic running back too, to where he's a lot like Emmett Johnson, where he's really shifty. And I thought that with the play that we saw in the linebackers, I'm like, oh shoot, I don't want to get this guy in any sort of space, past the
level,
it's the second level because he can make guys miss, and that was a big issue with the Michigan game. Was that the problem is that when we have the defense that we have, the scheme we have, if your guys are not in the right position or they just simply don't make a play, you're going to get blown up for a big run game or a big run. And we saw that with a lot of those guys that would be stepping up on a certain play, not being able to make the right play. And luckily for the Michigan State game, I mean, you saw guys swarming to the ball, and that is something that really wasn't the case in the first few games. And I'm really proud that they're able to make that adjustment right away because you got to give props where it's due right there. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I agree. The linebackers stepped up huge, and that was an area. The front seven in general is my biggest question mark for this Husker football team. Both sides of the ball, I think that's the biggest question mark. Is what can this front seven develop into? Because we don't have a whole lot of big playmakers coming into the season with this front seven, at least well-known guys. So the fact that you look at the tackle chart for the Michigan State game, Javen Wright, 10 total, 4 solo, half a sack, and 3 tackles for loss. Vincent Shavers Jr., 9 total, 6 solo, and 2 tackles for loss. They're at the top of the chart for a reason. They're understanding where the run fits are. They're understanding their system a little bit better. And again, you also got to, one of the things that I've learned, especially on the defensive side of football, if your linebackers are making those kind of tackles and have those kind of stats, it's because your D line is doing the correct thing.
Mm-hmm.
Your D
Yep.
line is eating up all of those offensive linemen, so they can't reach those linebackers and
Yep.
lets linebackers just run wild and take tackles.
Yep.
So that's something I got to tip my cap to the defense, and you'll see that in my reflection post for the blog this week because I was I've been harping on the defensive front seven a lot. I saw issues in that Cincinnati game where we were getting pushed around. You saw it again with Michigan, and I was like, this is gonna be a long Big Ten season if they can't start stepping up to these big run game strategies against their Big Ten team, and especially those linemen in front seven. Get those linebackers free so they can corral those backs and get some extra pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Before we shift over to like the preview of the Maryland game and then our X factors in that game, I again, what you're saying is 100% true because that was my biggest issue is that when your D line or whoever is just playing on that also 4-man front that we do the disguise or whatever, when those guys aren't doing your job, it just puts everyone out of position. And that's the thing. Like last year, that it really didn't matter is when you had a Ty or Nash, they would swallow up those offensive linemen, and then your other guys could go in there and eat and do what they wanted to. And I think that was the biggest, like you were saying, the biggest few issues that we saw in the first few games was just that those guys weren't doing what they needed to do. And it's like they don't need to go out there and get a sack every play, but again, it's just eating up those offensive linemen and making it sure that there's not really a place for if there's going to be a run game, it's not a place for those running backs to go to.
Yeah, unless like one of the things I've really learned about college football, and just football in general, unless you have a defensive lineman with the Indomitian Sue, Randy Gregory type like name and motor that they're gonna just beat every block no matter what. You don't really want to hear their names that much,
Right.
which is okay because that means they're doing their job and they're taking away all the offensive linemen, and you don't see any of those big boys in the second level taking away linebackers and safeties and making corners be the last resort to tackle.
Yep.
So the more that our D line as Husker fans can eat up the opposing offensive line and let those linebackers run free, we're in good shape.
Definitely still need to learn how to tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of
Yes.
those plays, some of those
Well, tackling fundamentals are key, and they need to be worked on every single week.
yeah, don't be arm tackling. Just take them out by the legs.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
tackle low. They got hips. Wrap them up. Take them down.
yep. So looking at this Maryland Terrapins team, like I mentioned at the beginning, they had a pretty big game against Washington last week and held a 20-0 lead until that second half. Washington was a complete different team in that second half and took care of business, coming back and taking down the Terrapins at the end. But it's another good quarterback matchup with Dylan Raiola and Malik Washington, true freshman quarterback for the Maryland Terrapins. Something to watch though for them is the lack of a running game. Their leading rusher 59 carries for 209 yards and only a touchdown, and compared to Emmett, who has nearly 500 yards on 84 carries and 7 touchdowns. So that's the biggest key for me. But for this, what would you say is your X factors? What you think is going to happen, and you can give your prediction, Alex.
Yeah. So a few things. One of the most important factors is their quarterback. He's a really dynamic playmaker, freshman, Malik Washington, and he's big, strong. He's 6'5", 230, so he's not easy to bring down. And although he's not as much of a rushing threat as some other quarterbacks, like maybe even Aiden Giles, he still has 3 touchdowns on the ground. So he can get out and around the pocket, especially in the red zone. He's really scary because he can scamper a few in that you're probably not thinking of. And so that adds an extra element, especially in the red zone. And one of the things that I think is most important is converting in the red zone on the other side. Nebraska has really struggled this season, and unfortunately, it keeps happening to all of my teams. For Standing Bear, that's one of our issues. Is we'll drive really well between the 20s, we get into the red zone, shoot ourselves in the foot, and come away with nothing. Peru State does a really good job driving everywhere down the field. They get in the red zone and they flop and have to kick a field goal. Nebraska, same thing. They drive everywhere down the field. Dylan's looking really good. Emmett's getting some rushes. They get in the red zone, and it seems like all concepts of like regular play calling go out the window. Um, if I see another back corner fade on second down inside the 10-yard line, I will lose my mind because it is a waste of a play. We can't It's not thrown very well, and it's a hard throw to make. I mean, we were working on those last week in practice at Stanbear, and we're coaching our quarterbacks, and they were sailing out of balance. They were sailing it short. It's a very, very pinpoint accurate throw you have to make, and it is hard. And you talk about that in the middle of a game with pressure and adrenaline and wind and crowd and all that. So it's a waste of a play right now, in my opinion. You can't throw it well, and our receivers don't get enough separation to catch it well. There's a couple times there's been some openings, but then you miss the throw. There's a couple times where you get the throw, but our receivers are not there. So in my opinion, it's just such a low percentage play where you could gain 3, 4, 5 yards and you're in a much better position. So I really hope that we just get a little more creative with our play calling there because right now it feels like a very wasted down. So I think that will help. But number one thing is just converting in the red zone. Nebraska currently ranks 92nd in the nation with red zone conversions and have only 6 touchdowns. Sorry, they have 16 touchdowns out of the 27 trips, 6 field goals, which seems a little bit odd. But they okay, so it's at 81%. But when you think of how many trips Nebraska's had in there, and to come away with 9 fewer touchdowns than you've been there, and some of them haven't even resulted in points.
Yeah.
Sorry, 16 out of the 22 have been touchdowns, but out of the 27 total trips, so you've missed on 9 different possessions in the red zone, through 5 games. That's not ideal. Um, so one of the things I really am looking to see is Nebraska converting in the red zone, and finishing off those drives with 7 points. Because if you're finishing them off with just uh, field goals, it's not going to work in the Big Ten. You're not going to be able to hold up. Uh, and especially with our defense this year, not having a whole lot of playmakers. If a team gets rolling and if they break one, like you don't want to find yourself behind because you picked 3 field goals in the game and they've scored 2 touchdowns. So I think converting in the red zone is going to be my biggest key, especially because Maryland currently ranks third in the nation in opponent red zone conversion. So only teams have only gotten into the red zone 13 times, and they've only scored 8 times against Maryland, and 4 of them have been touchdowns, 4 of them have been field goals. So you're already talking about a team that has not allowed much to go on in their red zone. They've only allowed 13 trips in there to begin with. Nebraska's been there double that with 27, but haven't converted. That's going to be my biggest key to this game. You got to convert when in the red zone for real life points. You can't have these imaginary points like, oh, if we go for it on fourth down and then get this, then we'll be okay. Or uh, again, have a field goal and have it blocked or have it missed or something like. Special teams has got to be sharp, and you got to be able to convert as many of those red zone trips to touchdowns because there's not a lot of points to get in the Big Ten games.
Kind of a fun fact too. Washington or not Washington, Maryland has not trailed all year until Washington took the lead at the end of the game last week. So that is something to watch. And my biggest thing is shutting down that pass game for Maryland. Obviously, we've talked about Malik Washington is already a fantastic quarterback, and he really helped elevate that Maryland offense. And Nebraska currently is still number one in pass defense in the country, only not allowing 91.8 yards a game through the air, and gave up their first passing touchdown of the season against Michigan State. So that's going to be a big key thing. And also just we've talked about it a lot on this podcast this week, but establishing the run, getting that run game going, that's just going to open up so many lanes for the Huskers on offense. And if you're able to shut down that Maryland or the offense with their passing game and limiting the run and stuff like that, it's going to play a huge role for the Huskers and where they can go on Saturday.
Yeah, kind of going off of like how we handle the pass. I think that this is the biggest test for our pass defense so far. You know, with Michigan State, they definitely have playmakers, wide receivers, like Omari Kelly, and then another one that they had that are stud wide receivers, and sort of Cincinnati, they could throw it pretty decent, but really, I think that this is the first game all year that we are coming into face an offense that will pass quite a bit. And I know that our pass defense is really, really good, but I also am a little skeptical because you have the other issues of tackling and stuff like that. And sometimes when these defensive backs have to crash down and make certain plays, they kind of get exposed in some of their abilities. And so this one, if Maryland is really gonna try to pass on us, or what their game plan is gonna be, they're gonna try to switch it up and maybe try to establish a run, even though their run is worse than their Michigan State's even. So I think that is an interesting factor if they can get that going. But really, in the past, like, um, can we live up to what we have been so far this year? Because again, with the way pass defense has been, I just am like so skeptical of it. I mean, they've still proven that they've done fantastic. Like they've done a great job, and I want to give them credit. But also, it's like I have a feeling that there's going to be that game that comes up to where they kind of just falter and kind of get exposed a little bit because maybe they're not all on the same page out there. Do I think it will happen in this game? I don't know. I just think it's a first true test because they are a very pass heavy team.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Blake, especially because you look back to Indiana last year where Nebraska had allowed a rushing touchdown and then Indiana got like 5 of them.
Yep.
And Indiana ran all over us. They kind of did everything. But in this game, I think you're right because they have such a dynamic passing attack. We mentioned Malik Washington, really good freshman quarterback, completing 60% of his passes. Not bad for first 5 games of your career. And
Hmm.
if you look at their stats too, they have 4 different receivers, 3 receivers and a tight end that have 18 catches or more. So they are spreading the ball around really well, and there's a lot of people that you have to cover. And one of the last things about this too is when you have a team that has such a dynamic passing attack going against a team with a really stout pass defense, and like I think the pass defense for Nebraska is legit. I think that's the strength of this defense. But you're right; they haven't been tested very much because Cincinnati is passing very well now, but that's because they've had time to build chemistry with the receivers. Because
Yep.
Brendan Sorsby, like, he was playing his first ever game with those receivers because he has multiple receivers out of the transfer portal. And so that first game against Nebraska, they were still learning just each other's tendencies and stuff. That quarterback receiver relationship, understanding the speed, where guys are going to be at, how they go on their breaks, that takes a lot of time. So now that they're a couple games in, you saw what they did to Iowa State last week. They were passing all over them. Granted, Iowa State has a couple DBs injured, but that's probably one of the biggest things is you haven't truly been tested by a quarterback that has chemistry with his receivers. And again, Washington's still young, but it seems like he has a lot of good chemistry with so many guys getting so many targets and so many passes thrown their way. I think that's really going to put the black shirts in the secondary to the test.
We can do predictions now.
Yeah, so I'll let you go first, Alex. What's your prediction for Saturday?
All right. Well, I've been saying it all year. Nebraska needs to score 30 plus points a game if we're going to be one of the competing teams in the Big Ten. If we're going to be winning games, so I think Nebraska's over 30. And from what I saw from the defense, I'm really pleased. And the last thing that I love to tout, and I feel bad because I really don't mind Maryland. I think they're a great program, but there's a very big difference between September Maryland and the rest of the season Maryland.
Hmm.
Maryland always looks phenomenal in September. They go 4-0 every year. They're blowing people out. And then they get into Big Ten play and they struggle to put up points on the board. So I'm going to say Nebraska 35, Maryland 21.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go Nebraska 31, Maryland 24.
Okay.
What I hope for in the game is just kind of like what happened with Cincinnati, and this is where I don't mind if it's more low scoring. Is just complimentary, and I think that the Michigan State game would have changed so much more had we been able to do anything on those offensive drives in the second quarter or third
Yeah,
quarter.
the ones that were like on the 40-yard line and you had
Yes.
maybe 2 plays and you're in field goal range.
Right. Right. And just more complimentary of like being able, and I've said it before in our podcast, is just that like if our offense can stay in the field a little bit, then our defense can stand. We'll be on the field for a little bit, and it kind of equals out to where you don't just have to always worry about okay, when's our next possession coming up that we're like, oh shoot, our defense has been out there and half an hour. Like, what are we really going to do here? I mean, are we going to actually let one in or whatever? I think that I just hope for a more complimentary game, and I think that may lend it to being a little more scoring than you think. But yeah, so I got 31-24, Nebraska on top.
Yeah, I'm kind of like in the same spot. So I have Nebraska winning 34-24 over the Terrapins. You guys kind of all said it. I just think it comes down to having that complementary football. Can Nebraska run the ball? And I think they will be able to against this Maryland defense. And I think Nebraska will do a decent job at stopping that passing offense. But obviously, bend and no, just bend, don't break. That's the type of thing I think in this one. And they'll give up a couple, but I think Nebraska will take care of business and kind of can just control it throughout the game. So, all right, so we're gonna go on into our college football pick'em. If you remember, Alex, it's picking 10 games each week. We'll keep track of it where it stands throughout the year. I think last year, Alex, you were pretty close to the top pretty much the entire year. I think you just fell short to Justice.
Yeah,
Justice went 8-2 one week, so
yeah.
that was really hard to beat.
I think I was 7-3 if I remember correctly. Or I was
Yeah.
supposed to, maybe 6-4, but yeah, I was hoping to I would see or overthrow Justice this year and take the top spot.
Well, currently his only record's 4-6. He had a really rough week one, so
Well, I also had a really rough week one too.
Yeah.
I think that was probably my worst week I ever had. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah. So current standings as we going into this week. So currently I'm 37-23 this year. Blake, you're 33-26. So shoot for 5-5, Alex. I think that should be a pretty easy feat to hit.
I was gonna say I still
Um,
need to see what I did in week 6 for my blog predictions, but overall going into week 6 on the year, I was 80-31, and week 5 I went 17-2 on the blog. So
it's pretty good. Me and Blake both went 7-3 last week. So we have a pretty loaded slate this. I love how people say it's just going to be a bad week. Like last week, it was like kind of like an underwhelming slate going in, but all the upsets, like we didn't even talk about it, but like UCLA beating Penn
those
State.
are the weeks that get you.
Yeah,
They are.
The
They
weeks.
really are.
and they're hitting some upsets this year to where we're kind of getting close to that 2007 range with the amount of upsets we're having every week. So
Yeah, I think last year looking at the upsets that happened, they sort of happened like towards the middle of the season, towards the middle later when you kind of like we were waiting for that explosion of the upsets to happen, and it did happen. Now, not every year that's the case. I just think with really you're seeing a new era of college football here and now, and I think that it's showing what is so different about what makes college football different now than it was, even shoot 4 years ago when we were doing just the 4 team playoff. I think now that we're seeing a lot of the talent spread around, at least in my opinion. I think that that's really kind of changed it to where um, every year I think there's at least going to be one weekend where you get these massive upsets like this. And we had that one already, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon, just with the way the schedules are going to play out.
we could have a couple this week. You never know. So kick it off. Number 24, South Florida is heading on the road to North Texas for a Friday night game. That's a big time game for Group of Five conversation for the college football playoff this year. 6:30 kick. USF is a 1.5 point favorite. I'll have you go first, Alex.
Yeah, dangerous game for the South Florida Bulls. North Texas quietly playing really good football. Their quarterback, Drew Messmaker, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. They have a pretty decent running game with McGill. Um, I wanna take the Mean Green. I'm so close to it, but I think South Florida still has a lot of firepower on defense that kind of makes the game. I mean, Florida's offense is not that good, but to go into the swamp and shut them down for 16 points, they made a lot of big stops in that game. So defense typically travels even on a Friday night. I do like that this game is projected to be close because I think it's going to be a really good one to watch. And after my game at Standing Bear, I fully plan on coming home to watch the rest of this one. So I might even have this one on in the booth with me and keeping an eye on it. But I'll take South Florida. Do we need a score prediction on it or just
No.
just pick? All right, I'll take South Florida, but it's gonna be close. I like this matchup.
Yeah, Alex, I agree. I think the defense for South Florida is really going to be the determining factor, but also with the Mean Green with North Texas. I mean, their run game is just a little bit better than USF's right now, so I think that could be a little bit of a factor. I mean, if you can rely on the run game, I think that is something that if you can get a defense tired with having just to work on the run the entire time, then maybe you can manage, sort of a game like that. But again, USF's defense is really good, and just looking at the games that they've played so far, You don't need to put up a whole bunch of points when like the most you're letting up is only 26. So yeah, I got South Florida
I
winning.
was gonna say both teams have forced 11 turnovers on the year, and uh, that's a lot of takeaways for each defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm so tempted to take North Texas in this one, but I really think South Florida is just the better team.
Oh, you
I'm a
didn't
really
save the graphic, Dylan. You didn't save it.
I didn't. It's happened a few times this year.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of Byron Brown at quarterback for South Florida. He's a really really good quarterback, and he really fits that system really well. And he's been there for a couple of years, and he's really helped that South Florida team kind of get into this kind of competitive, like, oh yeah, they can legitimately make the playoffs this year, and especially if they get a win here on the road. And I think they do, and yeah, I think they take care of business on the road. It will be close, but they win. So next game we got here.
That one's gonna be one of the best of the weekend. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah. All right, big noon. Number one, Ohio State's going on the road to Illinois. Ohio State's 14.5-point favorites going in as of today. I'll have you go, Alex.
Yeah. I don't know if you boys know this because I don't know how closely you follow all of the crazy rivalries in college football in the Big. But there is a turtle trophy on the line.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Battle for the Alibi. Do you know about this trophy?
No.
I've seen it in College Football 26. So
Oh, oh my gosh! You got this. This is a throwback trophy. This is one of I can't remember how old. It's one of the oldest trophies um in college football.
wow,
Um, is the second oldest trophy in Big Ten. That's right. Yeah,
wow.
1925. So it is a wooden turtle that is a trophy between Ohio State and Illinois. It's one of my favorite trophies in college football because there is no reason either of these teams should have a turtle. Um,
It makes no sense.
yeah. I was extremely high on Illinois at the beginning of the season. They were my dark horse Big Ten. They were going to be the new Indiana and take like this was their toughest game, and they have it at home. And then they got absolutely ransacked by Indiana and just stomped, and I lost a lot of confidence. I was impressed with their comeback win against USC, but Ohio State has too much defense again. Defense travels. Uh, I just don't think when you go on the road and get stuffed by Indiana's defense, and Illinois had a lot of problems with their own defense. They had some injuries. I just don't think their offense has enough firepower to get through Ohio State's defense consistently enough. So I'm going to give the Buckeyes the nod on this one.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Alex. I mean, Illinois. I think that the bright spot, sort of their team was that their offense was really just something that could launch them to the next level. Because Illinois, I mean, under Brett Bielema, their defense has been really solid, and that's something that they've been able to rely on. But when they've kind of gotten exposed like that, and there's been some higher scoring games that they've had this year to where it has me a little concerned. Where Ohio State's offense is really good. But I think that it can sputter at times. But what's really frightening, obviously, is when they're able to play a fellow Big Ten team and one Minnesota, who I don't hate PJ Fleck like a lot of other people do. I got to give him respect because sometimes he is able to pull out quite a few wins in the Big Ten and just make them competitive enough to where like they can do some damage to some teams. But just they were able to dismantle them. I mean, do anything that they wanted to in that game. And that's where, like, if Ohio State, their offense can match up to what their defense doing, then you ain't going to catch them. And I think that's going to be the case here, especially because, Ohio State, they went on the road against Washington, and they kind of got bogged down in that one a little bit. I think
kind of just like held their
controlled the entire game,
Yeah.
but still not like the explosiveness you saw before. And so I got to go with Ohio State. I think that they've sort of just been able to go on the road so far in that one true test in the Big Ten and be able to control it.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw one more stat in there. Sorry, Dylan. Just to kind of highlight a little bit more. The thing that really makes me pick this game in favor of the Buckeyes, Illinois is third to last in sacks allowed with 19 sacks allowed. And so Luke Altmaier has yet to throw an interception. He's phenomenal at quarterback. And I'm really glad Nebraska doesn't play Illinois because I don't want to see Luke Altmaier like shred our defense for another year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with the lack of protection that he has against Ohio State's defense is going to be too much. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is their defense is just so stout with the Buckeyes.
I got the Buckeyes as well. Not saving the graphic. I can't this one. Ohio State's defense alone could get them to the national championship again this year. That Ohio State defense is so good. And like you said, Alex, Illinois got shut down by Indiana's defense. Not saying they're not good, they're really good, but Ohio State's defense is at a whole nother level, and I think they take care of business on the road. I think pretty easily. I think the line is actually pretty fair for this one. I'm just not very confident in the Illinois offense against that Ohio State defense. And then Ohio State's offense is already pretty good. Julian Sands having himself a pretty good season in his first year starting. They have Jeremiah Smith, one of the best wide receivers in the country. So I think Ohio State gets the job done on the road. Continues being that number one team, even though I believe they're not the number one team. So next one is number 8 Alabama is going on the road at Columbia to take on number 14 Missouri Tigers. This is a very interesting one. Alabama's only a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I despise Missouri because I'm a true Husker fan who grew up in the Big 12 days. But this seems like the Alabama coming off the Georgia win going to Vandy from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And even though like Missouri's actually ranked and they have that little number next to them, this is a very big trap game for Alabama. You got the rivalry against Tennessee following this one next week, and you just had the big like game day, emotional day against Vandy. I can't pick Missouri to win. I really, really want to, but this is definitely on my upset watch radar because Kalen DeBoer gets his team up and ready for big games, and you don't look at Missouri and think, "Oh yeah, it's a big game." Like it's Missouri. You should be able to stomp them, but they just somehow find their way competing in the SEC and lose a couple games every year, and they're always like 6-2 in conference or 5-3 in conference. You're like, how the hell did they run the table that far in the SEC?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've proven it enough though, so I'm gonna go Alabama. Honestly, I like the way Ty Simpson's playing. I think he is probably one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the nation right now, and that's what you need if you're going to go on the road and win.
Well, I mean, shoot, we're all been kind of agreeing so far. I'm just someone who I've trusted on Alabama for most part of the year, so I think I'm going to pick Alabama, but I have a little bit of reason to because again, they're a team that I've trusted more, and I didn't want to write them off after that Week 1 game against Florida State, just because again, that is Week 1. Both teams are trying to figure it out in Florida State. You know, that was a big game for them because I mean, at home, that environment that you get, and just trying to get the redemption from last year. Just you had an awful season, get that bad taste in your mouth. But I think Missouri, you know, they have been able to capitalize off their schedule so far. And again, you know, like what is their best win against Kansas? Because it's certainly not South Carolina. And again, I'll say it every time on this podcast if I have to. And I love South Carolina. I love their baseball team, but again, you cannot count on South Carolina football to be consistent and be good enough. I mean, they just are. I always feel like either in the beginning of the season they're either ranked, you know, and then they fall off, or there'll be a team that shows up later in the year and like, oh man, they were a really good team that year. We'll see what happens this year. And I feel like they never carry over. And already, I just look at what they've done so far, and they've let up some points on the board against Kansas and South Carolina. I don't think that the defense is going to be good enough, and I think Alabama has got it under control right now. But I do think that you're right, though. I mean, like Vandy, again, that is redemption from last year and being able to get that big win. And they've kind of had, again, 2 big games in a row, Georgia and Vandy, and being able to, you know, control
don't
both.
Don't fall asleep in Columbia,
Yes,
Missouri.
You won't be able to at all.
Yeah, it's not going to be good.
Well, they're gonna fall asleep. I'm taking Mizzou.
Okay, there we go.
Yes.
There we go.
I'm taking
Thank
Mizzou.
You,
as much as I don't like Mizzou, Eli Drinkowitz is kind of a goofball, but I think the Tigers. I think you kind of said it, Alex. This is a trap game, even though they have that little number in front of their team name. I think this is a trap game for Bama. I'm really curious to see if Kalen DeBoer wears that black hoodie because they do pretty well when he wears that black hoodie.
Yeah, then you're screwed, but.
Yeah, but I think Mizzou gets the job done at home. I think I'm a big fan of Bo Pribula. I think Penn State may have chose the wrong quarterback so far, at least this year, because I think the best quarterback in that room is now not there. So
yeah. I really do like Ahmad Hardy as well.
Yeah.
Their running back is phenomenal, and even if Missouri loses, I think he's going to have still a pretty good day against a very tough Alabama defense. So I like your pick. I'm close to doing it, but I think Bama knows a little bit better than to watch out or to watch for these trap games a little bit more now.
Hmm. I think they will. I think it's going to be a very, very even game, but I think Missouri pulls off the upset at home. Get as much. I didn't think they'd be this good so far, but
Yeah.
they have been. So,
But to be fair, their schedule though, it's kind of they've won the games they're supposed to, and I don't want to knock on Missouri for that because again, I think if you're undefeated, 5-0, 6-0, I'll give where credit is due there. You're able to win the games you're supposed to because it's not easy to go undefeated like that, at least so far in the year. But there's still a lot of left to play, and so I think that just looking at their games, like, well, again, I give them credit, but also it's like you have to take it with a grain of salt a little bit.
I think this next one, I feel like it's not getting talked about enough.
Yeah.
Number 7 Indiana is going on the road to number 2 Oregon. Oregon's 7.5-point favorites. I think this one, like I said, it's just quietly just became like a huge game out of nowhere. So
yeah, again, I thought Indiana was a kind of a one-hit wonder last year. My apologies to Kurt Signetti. I never want to piss that man off in
Yes.
all of my life.
Yep.
I never want to be on his shit list. Like, oh my gosh, that man will pummel you into the dirt and then grab a shovel and pour more dirt on top. And then when that shovel breaks, he'll go get another shovel. It doesn't matter. Like, he will just bury you. So, with that being said, Dan Lanning's the same way. And that's what I love most about this game is that both of these coaches will not stop. Like, they do not care what that number says on the scoreboard. They will put 4 more touchdowns up because they feel like it. So you could see some really interesting, like, aggressive play calls in this one. The kicker is on the road. I have a number one. I have 2 number 1 rules now. I've added a second one. I have my number 1 rule in college football is you never want to play a team twice. And then like my 1B rule is traveling East Coast to West Coast, not a good idea. You saw it last week with Penn State. Granted, maybe a little hangover after the Oregon game. I was really surprised that Duke was able to like put a big game together and go beat Cal because any team that travels, especially from the East Coast to West Coast, and then has a late kick. This one's in the afternoon, so it's not as bad, but it's still like your body clocks and traveling that much. It teams that have that distance travel have a much worse record. And Oregon, I think right now is the number 1 team. It's them or Miami for me right now, but I think that the Ducks will prevail. Playing at home is their big advantage in this one. They don't have to go like they did the cross country trip to Oregon. So that's much better. Or sorry, to Penn State. I think that's much better for them being at home. Kursignay is going to put up a fight. This is going to be a good game. Indiana is going to be in the mix of the Big Ten again. But I like the Ducks.
All right, well, this one I'm going different here. I want to be special. I got Indiana because looking at just Oregon's schedule, and really, I mean, you got USC who could be a pretty decent team, but their toughest road game is either Iowa or Washington coming up. I mean, down the year, and I think that I don't think Oregon has an undefeated season in them. I just think it's naturally going to happen that they're going to lose a game, and I don't think it's going to go on the road at Iowa. I think Autzen Stadium is a little overrated of a place, in my opinion. And so I think that the Iowa game for Kirk Cignetti to be kind of humbled a little bit, I don't think he needs it, but I think that just they were able to still clutch up and win that game, even when most of the cards are stacked against them, and they had some of those big plays there in the end to just kind of secure it, right, and just do everything they have to win that game. Based on nothing else, I think Oregon is the better team. And, again, going to the West Coast, I remember last year when we had Alex on the podcast and talk about that UCLA Iowa game. And I specifically remember that because I was like, it's Iowa, man. They're going to go over there to UCLA and win it. But what did UCLA do that game? They just kind of just had – Iowa was in a funk, and they couldn't really do anything that they were accustomed to doing.
Oh.
And I think that could be the same case here, but this is better of a start time, and I think that also plays a lot of factor because
Very true.
that was Friday.
that was also a Friday night, and just whack and all that. When I went to San Francisco over the summer, being there the first few days was weird. It felt weird. I'm like, I'm thinking about back at home, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, like my body just does not feel aligned with what's actually happening right now in the world. And that could be the same case for Indiana here. I hope they have better prep for it, but for nothing, based on like nothing really, I think Indiana is going to get the upset because Oregon has to lose at some point.
Hey, this is a good game for them to lose if they're going to do it. I
Mhm.
like this pick, so that's respect.
I was hoping you'd pick Oregon because I was gonna pick Indiana, but
Good.
I'll take Oregon. It's kind of like the same thing how you said, Alex. It's just it's the home game for Oregon really, and I'm a little bit more higher on Autzen than you are, Blake.
Mhm.
I think it's a really really tough place to play. Ask Ohio State last year, and I think with this not being a night game, might play a little different
Ohio
factor.
State also blew it too. I
They
mean, come on now. That
yeah.
they had a chance there in the end. We all know the mistake that was made there by Howard. But that was such a close tight game. But anyways, go on with what you're
But
saying.
in the end, I think this is really, really good for college football, and just seeing Indiana being really good, going on the road, on the road to Oregon for a conference game is kind of incredible and crazy. But I'm really looking forward to this game this weekend, and I think Indiana will keep it close, but I think Oregon's just the better team in this one, and I think they get the job done. All
Great,
right, I did
great
not expect.
quarterback battle in this one. Great quarterback battle.
Yeah,
100%.
I was not expecting this next game to be a ranked versus unranked going into the season, with Oklahoma being
Being
the
the
higher
one, yeah,
ranked team,
being yeah.
being
Yes.
the ranked team. So I think number 6 Oklahoma, Red River rivalry in Dallas taking on the Texas Longhorns, 2:30 kick. Texas is favored currently at 1.5.
Well, I'm gonna tell you guys a little secret. Texas loses 3 or 4 more games this season. You can
I
mark
I,
it
I
down
think
right now. Texas loses 3 or 4 more games. They go 7-5, or they go 6-6. I'm calling it right now, and this is one of them. One of the reasons is John Mateer's trying to play,
mhm.
and I mean I don't know how you guys would feel just a couple weeks after surgery, but apparently he's ready to play a football game from it. So that's a big factor. If they can have John Mateer back in the lineup, I think that the Sooners just in general are a much better team than people are taking credit for or giving credit for. And Michael Hawkins would do just fine in this lineup, but John Mateer's the big X factor for this team. Defensively, Oklahoma is really, really sound, really, really talented, and Arch Manning is not. Arch Manning's fine. He's going to be a very, very decent quarterback. He is not the world beater that everybody predicted. He's not the world like god among boys that everybody said he would be as a Heisman finalist preseason. Like no, I said from the beginning he's got a lot to learn. He has not been in these environments. The Cotton Bowl is a lot of fun. I really hope to go to see the Cotton Bowl. Like it looks like just an amazing atmosphere to see
It
this
does.
someday. But I like Oklahoma, especially because of what their defense is going to do on third down to Texas. Oklahoma is currently number one in the nation with a 17.39 conversion rate for their opponents on third down. Less than 18% of third downs on Oklahoma have been converted. Their defense just flies around the football and does not allow much to happen on third down other than you going backwards. And if you want to look at where Texas is at, they are 116th in the nation on third down conversions. That's your stat right there. Number one versus number 116. That's one of the big reasons why Texas is unranked. That's one of the big reasons why they're losing 3 or 4 more games this year. And this is one of them. Oklahoma takes the Red River rivalry.
Yeah, man, I'm toying with it because I feel like with the SEC and kind of how it has been with the teams that aren't just immediately at the top in the conference. I feel like you sort of get those games where like Florida just had, right? That Billy Napier is the king of saving himself on the hot seat, like last year and this year, where they're just able to somehow win a game. And I think it all depends on if that potential Heisman hopeful John Mateer, how much is he going to play, if he's going to play. I think that matters a lot. But I mean, again, just looking what they've been able to do this year, obviously without him in Kent State, 44-0. I mean, that's no slouch of it, be able to put their offense up, and I think that their run game is really good too. But just this, again, this is a feeling that this could be the one win that Texas, where coming off them being unranked and everyone calling saying do not rank them, even though in the coaches poll they're technically still ranked, and people still think that they have the talent to be they have more talent than other people, so they should be ranked. I think this could be one of those games where if Texas would get the win, I think that they would plot back to being ranked, and people would think that they're back, but that doesn't mean they're back because they still have major issues with their team. I was gonna think about picking Texas, but Oklahoma. I've said it all year. Do not count out Brent Venables just yet. I feel like
Nope.
he hasn't been able to have a team to have all the correct pieces into play for them to be just truly competitive 100% on both sides of the ball. Whether it's their offense not just being able to do anything like last year and get it would stall out at times, and then their defense is just locked in. And I think Oklahoma is going to win it.
I'm going to take Oklahoma too. A little bit of hesitancy, just because you never know what Texas is going to do. They haven't got a Power 4 conference win yet, like Penn State, but I don't think that's coming this week. And I actually also agree with you, Alex. I think they have a couple more losses on the schedule.
Oh yeah,
I mean they play Georgia still, and they still have a couple more like they could easily lose. And I think this is one of those. And I think Oklahoma, if Matir plays, I think it's going to be a big difference for them. I'm not a huge fan of Michael Hawkins. Was not good last year. There's a reason why he didn't look very good, and they just did not have a good quarterback room last year. But this year, John Matir is, well, when he's healthy, he's a Heisman candidate. So
I will say, I think Michael Hawkins fits better with Ben Arbuckle's system, and I think he's got more talent around him. So again, if he needs to play, they'll be okay. It's never gonna be the John Matir level because you want him. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's a big factor in this one.
But yeah, I think the Sooners get the win here in a big rivalry game over Texas. We'll make two quick picks here: Iowa State versus Colorado, and then Iowa, Wisconsin are our next two. So I'll have you pick your next the winners of these two.
Okay. I'm gonna go Iowa State bouncing back, even on the road again. I have them as one of the Big 12 favorites. Colorado looks really messy. I've watched a couple of their games, and Dion even says like they just have a lot of issues right now to fix. So I'm gonna go with the Cyclones, and they said it was Iowa, Wisconsin.
Correct.
Battle for the Heartland Trophy. There's a bronze bowl up for grabs. Iowa. I don't like what Wisconsin's doing. I don't know if Luke Fickell has any kind of hopes of keeping his job after this season, the way it's looking like it's going to go. And they put up a little bit of a fight against Michigan, better than I thought, but Iowa still doesn't understand the concept of a forward pass. But their defense is stout. They have a really good running game as usual, and I just think even on the road, Wisconsin will do something stupid and Iowa will win. So I'll look at the two Iowa teams. Iowa State and Iowa both could win on the road.
Yeah, looking at Colorado, it's just like, again, the massive issues that they have during the games, because if you look at some of their games, they have had really every chance to win.
Yeah, they've been leading. They've been winning.
Yeah. And it's been kind of like bizarre to where, like, at the beginning of the year, I'm like, okay, I don't think Colorado is that great of a team, but I don't want to just completely write them off of getting, maybe 6 wins or being competitive at least. And they've been competitive in some of these games, but it's just been really the surprising stuff of not being able to pull out some of these wins. And I think that's really where the discouraging thing is, that, like, sure, I'm really worried about Iowa State defensively. I think that, you lose your biggest weapons on defense, and especially in the pass game and in a conference that, I mean, it's obviously you're going to chuck the ball down the field, to where I'm really worried about that. I am not as worried about Colorado just overloading them with that. But yeah, I'm going to go with Iowa State. I do think that Colorado is going to be in this game. It's just that their own ineptitude is going to take them out of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also Iowa, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah, and then Iowa. Wisconsin, interestingly enough, I think that I really don't trust their pass defense enough. I think that they maybe are able to do some stuff on defense, but it really is the pass where I'm worried about it. And I think that looking at that Rutgers game, Rutgers defense wasn't the greatest, and they were actually kind of able to pass over them a little bit. going back to that game, and I think that if Iowa is able to figure out the forward pass, then they're going to be able to easily win that game by a lot. But if they aren't, then I think they'll play into more Wisconsin hands.
I got Iowa State in the Iowa State Colorado one. I think I'm just not like Colorado. They just can't close games even when they take the lead, and I feel like that's going to play a huge factor in this one. I think Iowa State is the better football team, even with the with some injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So I think the Cyclones get back in the win column on the road. And then Iowa, Wisconsin, I think this is going to be low scoring. It's going to be your Big Ten West football. It may not exist on paper, but it's the idea is still there. So, but I think Iowa gets it done. Not a fan of Wisconsin. I think they're playing better, but it's just that schedule is so difficult to the point where you're going to have to fire Luke Fickell or find something else to do, because if they go 2-10 this year, I don't even think you can like.
Well, Barry Alvarez though, he says the students are spoiled and everything like that, even though the students they've only seen what, a 7-6 season. That's the best season they've seen. I don't know. When you have an athletic director like Barry Alvarez, I'm sorry, he's getting older, probably a little out of touch, and I've talked about it last week on our podcast. Like, some of these athletic directors, I think they don't really understand the concept of how a business is run and where the programs are at. And I think Barry Alvarez.
That's the thing is, like, he's not even AD anymore. He's just making these comments out of left field because he's like associated with the program and stuff.
I know, but he still has a lot of influence. That's like the major thing where, like,
he's like the Osborne.
Yeah.
Like, so much influence.
Yes, to where it's almost to the detriment, right? And I think that that's some of the case with, what is their AD actually going to pull a move like that? And will that actually happen? I don't know. Money's a big factor in college football right now. I don't think you just can wishfully build up that money if you want to go out and pay players too. But yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting thing about it. But
I got the Hawkeyes winning. I think they're just going to be the better team.
Yep.
This one. All right, Georgia is going on the road to Auburn. Interesting road game, night game, Jordan Air. 3.5-point favorites for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, especially because before the season started, said Georgia is going to lose at least 3 games. They've lost one to Alabama, should have lost one to Tennessee. Tennessee botched that one. And Georgia's schedule remaining is this game at Auburn, home against Ole Miss, against Florida, on the road at Mississippi State, Texas at home, Charlotte, and then Georgia Tech rivalry. So, again, I still think there's 2 losses there. I'm not sure if it comes this week because they handled their business well against Kentucky following the Alabama loss. They could be peeking ahead a little bit to Ole Miss. That's definitely going to be a top 10 matchup if Georgia wins. That could be a game day matchup. So there's a lot to kind of look at. I just don't think Jackson Arnold and I don't think Hugh Freeze quite has the game plan ready to beat Georgia yet. I think the Tigers have struggled a little bit to put up a lot of points in these bigger games. So I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Georgia too. I guess maybe shout out Sam McEwen for being the one guy that has Auburn ranked.
Your back-to-back losses in September?
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. You would think it would be one of the SEC guys, but it's a Nebraska writer that is the one doing it. And yeah, I just am really wondering, again, looking at Georgia, it's like, I mean, Kentucky was a team that Georgia has struggled against recently. That's a team that they've faced it close, and they're finally able to pull a win there. I think that's more the case of what's going on there in Kentucky not being great with Bob Stoops.
Not Bob Stoops.
Mark Stoops, excuse me. Mark Stoops, I think that their program is just once somewhat competitive now, really not. And again, that Alabama game, they're still in it. It's 3-source game, I think, or 3-point game. I think that was like a little misleading because I felt like whenever I saw Georgia have the ball for like 90% of that game, but they weren't doing anything with it. So I think that's more showing they're sort of ineptitude on offense. But yeah, I got Georgia winning this one too.
I'll take Georgia as well. I think they get it done on the road. I'm not super high on Auburn. And Hugh Freeze, I've not been a big fan of him typically. He's really good at recruiting wide receivers. And he looked good at the beginning of the year. I'll say Auburn looked really good, but those back-to-back losses, not great. So, and I don't think anything's. And this is already just a tough matchup already. And Georgia still, even if they still lose 3 games this year, it's still Georgia. Kirby Smart, well coached team and stuff like that. I think the Bulldogs get it done on the road. Second to last one here, Michigan is going on the road to USC for a night game. This is a big one. USC is favored by 2.5.
Yeah, this one is a huge kind of determining factor on if Lincoln Riley is going to last in the Big Ten or if USC is just going to kind of be middle of the road with him. This is a statement game for Lincoln Riley. This is a statement game for USC. Uh, if they win this, they are in the mix for Big Ten conference conversations, their Big Ten title conversations, because they still have a tricky schedule. But the Notre Dame one next week on the road, but doesn't factor into Big Ten play. And you have at Nebraska and at Oregon, but Northwestern and Iowa come to you. So very winnable games. And if you knock off Michigan, then it's really just dealing with Nebraska and Oregon. So you could find yourself with 2 losses in Big Ten play if you're USC. Um, I'm thinking Oregon. I have like I'm hoping we can beat them. That's to be seen. So I like USC in this one. I think again I'm going to go back to my 1A, my 1B rule. You don't want to play anybody twice, but then most importantly, you don't want to travel East Coast to West Coast. And Michigan is on Eastern time. So even though this is a little bit earlier than the late night kick, so this is 6:30 kick, I think. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's 8:30 Michigan time. So you start getting into fourth quarter, it's 10, 11 o'clock body clocks. And Michigan be up for this game and everything, but I don't know. I think Lincoln Riley makes a statement. I really like Jade Mayaba. I think that's probably the biggest factor to me is his dual threat ability. You have Bryce Underwood on the road, and if you shut down Michigan's run game, then you force Bryce Underwood to beat you. That's what Nebraska should have done, and I think that's what USC probably saw on the blueprint. You got to shut down that run game and force Bryce Underwood to beat you with his arms. So give me the Trojans.
Oh man, this is a tough one. I kind of wanted Dylan to go before me because, again, I think that if you shut down Bryce or the run game, then really, I mean, Bryce Underwood, he is someone, and it's still his biggest issue is he stares down his first route and he
I mean,
throws that first
he's
route.
played 6 college games or whatever. Like
Yes,
college
yep, and that's just what he is,
it's
and
bad.
he doesn't, and especially when he rolls out to, again, I feel like just stares down the first route. And to Michigan's credit, though, and what I kind of noted when I was up there doing stats and pre and post game for the Karen U broadcast for that game, was that I noted that Michigan, whenever they get stagnant on offense, they pull out some crazy trick play. That's just what they've been doing, and it's almost worked in the Nebraska game. Should have been a touchdown there, and I think that in this case, if they're really having to rely on that, then they're losing this game. And it's just if they can establish the run. But for Michigan too, I think that just the identity of their team under Sharon Moore has kind of just been sort of what Harbaugh did, but a lighter version. Because it's not like you're just 100% able to run the ball because they have to pass a little bit. But you don't have any sort of weapons. It's just not really as creative, I felt like, as Harbaugh's was. And so I feel like that's to their detriment here. Lincoln Riley, again, a lot of hype going in this year, finally having a lot of the pieces there and being able to understand and establish themselves in the Big Ten. But the Illinois game, it's just, again, they had chances to win that one, and they still weren't able to pull it out, and just circumstances came about it that way. And even in the Michigan State game, they're leading that entire time, and they had that 2-score buffer, but their defense, man, just kind of was allowing Michigan State to just still put up points. And again, you look at that Illinois game and their defense, you can't let up 34 points and expect to win a game, even if those last 3 points came there late. But yeah, I think that this is one of those cases where, again, traveling to the West Coast is going to be tough. And I think Michigan, they have played a big road game, but it's that West Coast that's going to be a factor. So I got USC.
Damn it. Do we do all 3 of us pick USC? Because I was going to pick them originally.
You should do Michigan.
I'm going to take USC.
Oh,
We're
boo.
gonna sweep. I feel like I'm just really worried for the traveling to the West Coast for Michigan, a lot more than I am for some other teams. Like
Mhm.
it's just a young quarterback having to travel to the West Coast. He's played in some tough road games. I mean, he played at Oklahoma, he played in Lincoln.
Yep.
He kind of handled the noise, not a little bit more in Lincoln than he did in Norman, but this is another tough game, and I think USC. I'm a lot more confident in their offense. Jaden Mayaba is a damn good quarterback, and he's really shown it this year. Even with that loss to Illinois, and I think having a buffer is kind of helping them. And I think USC, this is their coming out game here, and they get a statement win at home against Michigan. So I think the Trojans get it done in this one.
That's a good pick.
Arizona State, number 21 Arizona State's going on the road for a tough road game against Utah. Utah is 6.5-point favorites in the Big 12 After Dark game.
Yeah, I'm glad we have like some reminiscing trails of Pac-12 After Dark. It's just Big 12 After Dark with these old Pac-12 teams. Oh man, I keep picking against Arizona State, not because I don't think they're good. They're not the same team as last year, and I think the teams that they've been playing, like Baylor on the road and TCU at home, those couple weeks ago, I thought those were just really good matchups for Baylor and TCU, and then Arizona State pulled out both of them as wins. So this is something that I really have been impressed with Arizona State. Both teams are coming off a bye, so you have a little bit of time, a little bit of rest. Utah obviously looking very dangerous, but that Texas Tech game showed a lot of flaws. It showed again, you get some pressure on Dampier, then then Texas Tech was able to kind of pull away late in that game, and they really shut down the Utah offense quicker than I thought. This one could be a little bit more of a classic Big 12, Pac-12 reminisce type shootout. So I keep picking against Arizona State, but I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to pick the Sun Devils this time. Forks up.
Works out. All right.
Okay, well, I'm picking Utah here in this one. Keep it short and sweet. I think that their defense is going to keep them in this one. I'm really, again, I agree with you, Alex, with what you're saying about Arizona State kind of winning the games that they could have, easily should have lost. But also to Arizona State's credit, or to really Utah's credit, I mean, I think that their defense is going to keep them in a lot of these games. And even in that Texas Tech game, I mean, for the most part, you look at the first half of it, and they had no offense, but their defense was good enough to sort of have a minute until Texas Tech was able to take over. And again, Arizona State, I'm a little just worried about these close games. And then, we already saw it with Mississippi State, right?
Mm-hmm.
As easily can go one way, and you win the games, and that looks fantastic, and easily go the other way. And I think that I love Kenny Dillingham, but I think that some of his flaws in his coaches, some of his aggressive stuff, and especially on defense, when in the exact same thing that happened against Texas in the playoffs happened in that Michigan State game, or the Mississippi State game, to where the blitz that they sent had a person open that probably wouldn't normally be open in the most case, and I'm really worried about that with him being ultra aggressive. So I got Utah.
Yeah, I'm guessing that this is probably one of those scenarios where I pick Arizona State and they screw me over by losing now because I've picked against them so many times. And I will say it is very hard for me to pick against Kyle Whittingham and against
Mhm.
Utah at home because I love Utah. I love Kyle Whittingham. I love how that program's always been run. Their stadium is really cool. Their campus is really cool. So it's very hard for me to pick against them at home.
I'm taking Utah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't.
I love that pick.
I cannot pick them to not win at home. It's really hard. Night game.
Yeah.
And I'm not as confident in Arizona State. I think you said just those close wins. Like, man, they're eking these ones out, especially that TCU one. They just kind of gritty their way out of that one. So, and even
Gritty.
took a lot of grit to win that game. I think it's just they're gonna run out of fuel in this one, and I think Utah I think it's gonna be that shootout, the old Big 12, Pac-12 kind of shootout in this one, and I think Utah's just gonna just eke them out in the end, and I think they get the job done at home.
Where it's like less than like 6 or 7 points between them.
Stop.
Yeah, I love that pick. I honestly may change it for my blog because I do kind of like Utah. I'm just hoping maybe for this podcast I'll get a quick upset there, but yeah, that one's a coin toss. I think it's gonna be a good game either way. That one's gonna be fun to watch late night.
Yeah. So that was our college football pick'ems. We're gonna close it out here. So, where can they find you, Alex?
Yeah, you can follow my social medias on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Fernandman. And then my college football blog is called College Football Know It All. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun. This is always one of my favorite podcasts to come on every year. I'm so glad and thankful you guys ask me, letting me talk a little bit about some high school football and my broadcast stuff, and just talk my favorite topic in the world, college football and Husker football. So really big shout out to you guys. I love listening to your content, and props to you for keeping this going over the few years while you're in college, working hard, grinding at Coach AMC. There's a lot that goes into your college experience, and the fact that you guys have enhanced it with this podcast, and allowed me to be a part of it a couple times really means a lot. So, uh, again, great work to both of you, and thanks again. This is always fun. Go Big Red.
Mm-hmm. And then also book this guy to be either an MC or a DJ, either one too.
I'll say if you need a wedding DJ, I'm your guy.
Yep.
Yeah. So we appreciate it, Alex. You're always one of the first guys we always reach out to.
Yes, 100%.
I mean, you played a big factor in us being able to even do this podcast because, well, you're the reason why we're here. So,
yep.
I mean, yeah, props to you.
Awesome. So, right, if you need me on for like conference championship week or something, like I'm always for another episode.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind. We'll put his socials and stuff in our description on this podcast. So, yeah, so go follow us on Twitter. It's the Last Take 22, capital TLT. Instagram, all lowercase, the Last Take Pod, and on YouTube, it's just the Last Take on there. So, signing off for the Last Take, it's Blake,
it's Alex,
and it's Dylan, and of course, GBR.